When Kraft Singles showed up in grocery aisles back in the mid-1900s, they felt like a little miracle in plastic. A perfect slice of creamy cheese that never seemed to go bad, always melted the same way, and somehow stayed soft even after months in the fridge. For busy families, it was convenience wrapped in cellophane. But behind that golden glow and squeaky smooth texture, people started to wonder, what exactly is this stuff? Why doesn't it spoil? And how much of it is actually cheese? Today, we're digging into the story that Kraft probably doesn't want you to unwrap, the long, melty truth behind those famous orange slices. Before we tear open the first pack, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling us how you use your Kraft Singles, grilled cheese, cheeseburgers, or straight out of the wrapper. For now, let's get cheesy. Where processed cheese began before Kraft Singles ever wrapped themselves around a burger, the idea of processed cheese was born in Switzerland in 1911. Two innovators, Walter Gerber and Fritz Stettler, stumbled on a way to make cheese last longer without spoiling. By blending shredded Emmental, or Swiss cheese, with sodium citrate, they discovered a smooth, meltable cheese that could be reheated again and again without separating or burning. It was the first time cheese could truly survive travel and time. Their discovery solved a huge problem. Traditional cheeses spoiled fast, especially in warm weather or during transport. But by using leftover scraps and blending them with salts, the Swiss created a uniform shelf-stable product that stayed soft and creamy. It wasn't gourmet, but it was revolutionary. Soldiers could carry it, families could store it, and factories could mass-produce it. This Swiss method made its way across the Atlantic just a few years later, where a certain Canadian entrepreneur saw potential far beyond fondue. What started as an experiment to save leftover cheese would soon evolve into one of America's most iconic and controversial food inventions. And once the right businessmen got involved, processed cheese wouldn't just change dinner tables, it would reshape the entire dairy industry. The Canadian who changed American cheese forever. Enter James Lewis Kraft, a Canadian-born dreamer with a knack for spotting opportunity and a serious dislike for wasted cheese. In the early 1900s, Kraft moved from Ontario to Chicago with just a few dollars and a head full of ideas. At the time, cheese was sold in massive wheels that spoiled quickly, forcing grocers to throw away unsold portions. Kraft hated that kind of inefficiency, so he set out to find a way to make cheese that lasted longer and traveled better. By 1916, he and his brothers had patented a groundbreaking process for heating cheddar cheese to sterilize it, then blending it with salts like sodium phosphate to keep it creamy and uniform. The result? A cheese that didn't mold, didn't crumble, and didn't need refrigeration right away. Something completely unheard of at the time. Kraft's process revolutionized how cheese could be made, stored, and sold. It wasn't long before the company, J.L. Kraft and Brothers, became a powerhouse. Soldiers during both World Wars dined on Kraft's processed cheese because it could withstand months of storage and extreme conditions without spoiling. By the 1930s, nearly half of all cheese sold in the United States came from Kraft. It was practical, consistent, and cheap, the holy trinity of American food manufacturing. But while Kraft was conquering the cheese market, his company was already dreaming of something even bigger. Cheese that didn't just last longer, it sliced perfectly every single time. The birth of the slice, how convenience changed everything in the 1930s. Kraft's processed cheese had already conquered America's pantries. But Norman Kraft, one of James's brothers, believed there was still one problem to solve. Cheese was convenient, yes, but slicing it was a nightmare. Uneven cuts, sticky knives, and crumbly edges made even the best cheddar a mess to handle. Norman began experimenting with melted cheese poured onto chilled metal tables. When cooled, it hardened into smooth, flat sheets that could be sliced perfectly into uniform squares. After a few refinements, Kraft's factory engineers built rolling machines that could stretch and cut the cheese evenly, producing the world's first machine-sliced processed cheese. It was a technological leap that made cheese not only shelf-stable, but now ready to eat. For sandwich lovers, it was the dream they didn't know they had. The innovation took off like wildfire. By the time Kraft launched its deluxe processed slices in 1950, grocery stores reported cheese sales skyrocketing by over 100%. No messy slicing, no mold, no waste, just peel, place, and melt. It was foolproof convenience for the modern post-war household. But the story didn't stop there. In 1956, engineer Arnold Nawrocki saw Kraft's success and thought, why not go further? He developed a machine that could individually wrap each slice, preventing them from sticking together. Kraft bought the patent, refined it, and in 1965 introduced the product that would define American cheese for generations, the one and only Kraft Singles, the rise of Kraft Singles and the American cheese empire. By the 1960s, Kraft was no longer just a company, it was an institution. And when Kraft Singles hit the shelves in 1965, they became an instant icon. For the first time, families could buy individually wrapped cheese slices that stayed soft, melted perfectly, and lasted months without turning bad. It was the definition of convenience food in a rapidly modernizing America. Housewives loved it, diners stocked up, and fast food chains quickly adopted it for burgers, melts, and grilled cheese sandwiches. The timing couldn't have been better. America was obsessed with speed and simplicity. Frozen dinners, canned soups, powdered drinks, and Kraft Singles fit right in. Within a few short years, the brand was in nearly every grocery store and more than 40% of American households. TV commercials promised the perfect slice of cheese, and kids grew up believing those glossy orange squares were the real deal. But while Kraft was dominating the dairy aisle, food regulators were beginning to take notice. A product that didn't spoil, didn't mold, and didn't quite behave like cheese was bound to raise a few eyebrows. Behind the cheerful marketing, questions were starting to bubble up. How could something that looked, felt, and melted like cheese not actually be cheese? The answer would eventually force Kraft to rewrite its own packaging and redefine what it was really selling. Kraft's legal problem with the word cheese. In the early 1990s, Kraft found itself in the middle of a sticky situation, and this time, it wasn't melted cheese. The Federal Trade Commission launched an investigation into the company's advertising, particularly the claim that each Kraft Single contained 5 ounces of milk. The implication was simple: eat one slice, and you've basically had a glass of milk. Unfortunately, that wasn't even close to true. In reality, each slice contained much less milk and plenty of other ingredients that weren't found anywhere near a dairy farm. The FTC ruled that the campaign was deceptive, forcing Kraft to drop the milk claim entirely. But the controversy didn't stop there. When regulators took a closer look at Kraft Singles, they realized the product didn't actually meet the FDA's legal definition of cheese. According to federal standards, for something to be labeled cheese, it must be made of at least 51% actual cheese curd. Kraft Singles fell just short of that threshold. That meant the company had to get creative with its labeling. For a while, Kraft used the term pasteurized processed cheese food, but after more ingredient changes, they were legally required to drop the word food too. The final label, pasteurized prepared cheese product, was born, and it's still printed on the wrappers today. It may sound harmless, but it's a big linguistic loophole. Legally, Kraft Singles can't call themselves cheese, only something that vaguely resembles it. What's really inside a Kraft Single? If you've ever wondered why Kraft Singles melt so perfectly but never quite taste like real cheddar, the secret is in the formula. Each slice starts with a base of milk and whey, but that's just the beginning. To keep the texture smooth and stretchy, Kraft adds milk protein concentrate, milk fat, and a mix of emulsifying salts, mainly sodium phosphate and calcium phosphate. These prevent the fats and proteins from separating during heating, giving that signature gooey pull every grilled cheese lover knows by heart. But there's more science than dairy in every slice. Preservatives like sorbic acid are added to keep mold at bay for months. Colorings like annatto and paprika extract give it that unmistakable yellow-orange hue. And the real kicker? The blend of ingredients is heat-treated to the point that it becomes something entirely new. Not milk, not cheddar, but a hybrid of both. That's why Kraft Singles can sit in your fridge for weeks without changing texture or smell. The product is designed to resist decay, not embrace it. While real cheese ages and matures, Kraft Singles are built to endure. It's impressive food engineering and slightly unsettling once you think about it. So when you unwrap that shiny plastic and watch it melt flawlessly over your burger, you're not just eating cheese, you're eating chemistry perfected for convenience, the plastic controversy. By 2023, Kraft Singles had been around for nearly 60 years, but even legends have their bad days. That September, the company issued a massive recall. Over 83,000 cases of its American cheese slices were pulled from shelves after customers started reporting something horrifying. They weren't biting into cheese, they were biting into plastic. A malfunction in one of Kraft's automated wrapping machines caused thin slivers of film to stick to the cheese even after customers peeled off the outer layer. When people went to make sandwiches or grilled cheese, they unknowingly ate the leftover bits of plastic embedded in the slice. Social media blew up with photos of half-melted cheese clinging to clear rubbery sheets that looked straight out of a toy factory. Some customers even reported choking incidents. Kraft moved fast, repairing the faulty machines and strengthening its quality checks, but the damage was already done. The incident reignited old debates about whether Kraft Singles were real food at all. Critics joked that the recall wasn't about contamination, it was about the cheese finally admitting what it really was: plastic in disguise. To Kraft's credit, they owned the mistake and fixed it quickly. But even after the cleanup, one question stuck in everyone's mind: if your cheese can survive a machinery malfunction without changing color or texture, how natural can it really be? The FDA's definition of cheese and how Kraft slipped past it. To understand why Kraft Singles live in their own strange category, you need to look at how the US government defines cheese. The FDA has something called Standards of Identity, basically a rulebook that determines what can and cannot legally be sold under a specific name. For a product to qualify as cheese, at least 51% of it must come directly from cheese curds. Anything less, and it gets bumped down to labels like cheese food, cheese spread, or the one Kraft eventually had to settle on, pasteurized prepared cheese product. That wording might sound technical, but it's a marketing nightmare. Consumers trust the word cheese. Prepared cheese product sounds like something that belongs in a science lab. Kraft fought hard to make the distinction sound harmless, leaning into slogans that emphasize smoothness, meltability, and family tradition, not purity. And to be fair, Kraft wasn't lying. Singles do contain real cheese, just not enough to legally qualify as one. When you melt a slice onto a burger, what you're really eating is a stabilized blend of dairy solids, oils, and salts designed to act like cheese without aging, crumbling, or spoiling. It's a masterclass in branding, turning a technical loophole into an everyday essential. Kraft didn't change the rules of cheese, they just built an empire in the space between them. The decline of processed cheese. For decades, Kraft Singles reigned supreme, but starting in the 2000s, things began to melt. As consumers became more health conscious, demand for processed foods plummeted. Shoppers wanted ingredients they could pronounce, shorter labels, and fewer preservatives. Suddenly, that smooth plastic-wrapped convenience didn't feel so comforting anymore. Sales of Kraft Singles started sliding in 2014, mirroring a broader movement toward natural cheeses, organic brands, and dairy alternatives. Millennials especially began turning away from what they saw as fake food. Restaurants followed suit, swapping out American cheese for aged cheddar or Gouda on their burgers. Even fast food giants like McDonald's started marketing real cheese initiatives to appeal to changing tastes. Kraft tried to adapt by reformulating slightly and leaning on nostalgia, but the damage was done. Processed cheese had become the food world's guilty pleasure, loved in secret, shamed in public. Ironically, the product that once symbolized progress was now being left behind by the very consumers it helped raise. Yet despite the backlash, Kraft Singles never disappeared. They still line supermarket shelves, still star in school lunches, and still melt better than anything else on a burger. Like it or not, they remain the comfort food of an entire generation. The legacy and pop culture. Icon Kraft Singles may not be real cheese, but they're undeniably real Americana. They've shown up in everything from diner menus to Hollywood movies. They're in every lunchbox scene, every grilled cheese montage, and every late-night snack craving that ends with a pan and a slice. For many Americans, that gooey, perfect melt is nostalgia on a plate, a taste of childhood that no fancy cheese can replace. Even as food culture moves toward authenticity and farm-to-table purity, Kraft Singles endure. They're engineered, yes, but they're also reliable. When you unwrap one, you know exactly what you're getting. A flavor that never changes, a melt that never fails, and a brand that somehow turned chemistry into comfort. It's not fine dining, but it's a cultural cornerstone. So now that you know the truth, what do you think? Are Kraft Singles a miracle of food science or a processed imposter pretending to be cheese? Have they earned their place in the fridge, or should they finally retire to the history books? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you learned something new, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into food history, and tell us your favorite way to eat a Kraft Single.